Today's bike of the day is a very, very special example of an RC30. Now, we're already huge fans of the RC30 here at Iconic. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone that follows us. But this one is cool to me because it actually campaigned at the Manx GP, otherwise known as the Classic TT, at the Isle of Man. It was raced by Russ Granger, the son of Jim Granger, as part of their team that they have together called Blackheart Racing. Now, what's extra cool about this video is that we actually had Jim come by the shop to talk about his bike in more detail. So I'm gonna kick it right over to that footage, but fair warning, I'm about to grow a beard. And here we are with the legend himself, Jim Granger. Jim, Iconic, we've sold about 45, if not more, RC30s over the last few years here, and the best riding, best idling, best fueling RC30 we've ever had was one that this gentleman worked on. He is truly a guru when it comes to RC30s. But if you've never heard of him before, Jim, would you mind just telling people a little bit about your background, how you got involved with these bikes and that kind of thing?
Well, the background on four-cylinder bikes, like the RC30 and everything, goes back to the early days of the Honda Interceptor. And I was one of the first in San Fernando Valley, anyway, to buy a brand new, it was a VFR. And so then, as coincidence and everything, I turned around and became friends with Ray Plumb and
who was over at American Honda?
At Honda,
yeah.
And Mike and the whole bunch of guys.
Okay.
And I knew enough about these bikes that, you know, I got a little bit of respect from them, and I kind of proceeded on from that point. So I basically, I did all my development work and everything with the V4s, and I was literally right next door to a place called West Coast Cylinder Heads that would give me the time and the space to develop headwork and cams and everything else. And so it really kind of worked out. I mean, it's like all the steps were in place, and that just graduated on to the RC30s, and it's like I got into them and I went, okay, this is new to me, but it's not new. And I've been through this, and you know, and I know what to do. And so, and at that time there were people, you know, that were talking about, you know, sky-high horsepower readings and everything, and I went, God, you know, I've done just about everything I can think of, and I got good readings, but I'm not up to, you know, what this guy's claiming. And then, you know, and I find out the guy's, you know, running fuel and, you know, doing all kinds of weird things. So, just as an aside, one of my local heroes was Tony Scott in the UK, and I went, you know, I mean, he's in the UK and I'm here, and who am I? And so I wanted to get a hold of Tony, and you know, just compare notes and that kind of a thing. Tony gets a hold of me, and I'm going, oh. Yeah, you know, curiosity works the same, you know, one way or the other. And so, you know, we got to be pretty chatty with each other, and and he said that he had seen, you know, the dyno results, and he said, man, he says, you're getting, you know, really getting up there. And he said, and his comment was, he said, you know, he said, much more than that. And he says, the parts and pieces are looking for freedom, you know. So.
Well, okay, so what was, if you can remind people, a stock US spec RC30 was making, how much, was it 118, 120? Do you remember what it was?
As far as horsepower?
Yes, sir.
Honda claimed on there was a version 1 and a version 2.
Okay.
And the version 2 was kind of the standard, and just under 119 horse.
119, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so...
I get partial credit, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned, okay, so the Honda's claiming that, and then when again, just people that are very knowledgeable of these bikes are very impressed with what you're doing. What were you getting out of these things?
The top reading that I can still verify is was just under 140 horse.
Okay.
And that's with stock bore. And stock stroke. So
Wow.
I mean, there's no. This is not a cheater motor.
Right. Right.
And and there's actually, since I did the work on this, there's probably there's a little more horsepower that I could get out of it.
Sure.
But here again, it's been absolutely bulletproof.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I did the work on this motor quite a while ago,
Okay.
and it's been well used. You know.
Well, so I'm glad. Okay, because that's a perfect segue, because I do want you to explain to people a bit about what makes this bike special. This raced in the Manx GP. What year was that?
Ooh.
Yeah, I sorry
I don't know.
to put you on the spot.
It just continues on from year to
Yeah,
year to
okay,
year.
fair enough. But like he's saying, I mean, obviously a lot of work was done to this, but this isn't just a street bike. This has been raced. This has been really, you know, built well to compete.
It's putting out a lot of power.
Okay.
And I trust it. I mean,
Okay.
it's not. Oh, you know, I hope it makes another lap.
Right.
Kind of power. It's you can feel it when you're on the bike.
Okay.
These are very feelable motors.
Yeah.
And this thing loves to rev, and it has turned up to it was over 14,000, and
Wow.
I went, whoa, wait a minute, you know, we'll get it a little lower
Yeah,
than
because
that.
I think stock redline was 12, or it was in
Yeah,
it was 12.5.
12.5.
Yeah, and then in the California, so I actually used to own one of these that I commuted on.
Yeah.
And my redline was 12. It was a California spec bike. So, okay, if you don't mind, if you could just tell everyone that's watching the video just a few of your highlights, because again, just saying, hey, this race at the Manx GP is one thing, but you really have to understand that a lap there is a long time. Like, you have to build something to be reliable and quality. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind just sharing some of your favorite modifications or upgrades or whatever it might be.
Well,
for people.
Things that I don't think it has a lot to do with performance, but the frame itself, dimensionally and everything, looks like any RC30.
Sure.
Except it's a factory frame on this particular bike, and there's hard to say. the front forks, front suspension, and everything is pretty much stock.
Okay.
I don't in fact, I was asked yesterday what the spring rate was, and I went, oh shit, you know, I got lots of springs.
Yeah.
I'd have to look.
Sure.
The front brake setup, it's got the Brembos and the adapters, and that just came along at the right time. As you can see, the tachometer and everything is not marked.
Yeah.
And presumably it would rev till it exploded. So,
Okay.
which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I don't blame you there.
Yeah.
What's the story with the subframe here?
With the which?
The subframe?
Yeah, well, this is a standard subframe that just bolts to it. And it's usually covered up.
Yeah.
All this stuff, most of the bolts and nuts, I say most, not all, but most of them are titanium.
Okay.
And the sump on the motor itself is, well, this particular one is aluminum. They are titanium.
Okay.
And they are aluminum, and I wanted the rigidity in the bottom of the motor.
Gotcha.
On this, so.
Cool.
Yeah, that was you know, I mean, it gets to the point where you're, as we say, gilding the lily, you know. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it's good enough.
Yeah,
you know?
fair, that's fair. That's
it
fair.
does what it's supposed to.
Actually, speaking of which, so one of the things I was curious about, so you have the radiator setup. Is that a HRC kit radiator, or is that something that you built? Because this is extra thick, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the story with the radiator?
These are special. This is a thicker core and a little more cross flow on this one. This I never looked at real close, the lower radiator, but for the power this thing puts out, you know, unless you're letting it just idle for a long time, it doesn't get hot.
Okay.
So.
Fantastic. Well, okay, I'll tell you what, I think I've got two last specific questions for you. Actually, Riff, if you don't mind switching sides, sorry to put you on the spot here. The HRC pipe.
Yeah.
How'd you track that down? Because that's very difficult nowadays.
That came with the whole header system.
Gotcha.
And I'd have to think about it. I can't think of how I got it.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
But I ended up with it.
Yeah, that's a very, very special part right there. The bodywork also quite special. So the folks over at, I think it's Commonwealth Honda.
Yeah.
Right? How did you track down the bodywork?
Well, it was for I think it was for backup for Randy Renfro.
Okay.
When he was riding for Commonwealth. Ray Plumb has actually been to the shop, and there's lots of holes, small holes drilled in the fairing, and he says, "Yeah, I did that." You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was at Daytona, and
Gotcha.
I don't know much about that. I did the fairings and stuff for a customer.
Okay.
That, you know, I went goodbye and he left, and then later on I ended up, you know, making a deal on the whole bike, and so the bodywork came back to me, you know, and I'm going, well, okay.
Yeah.
So, Anyway,
okay. Yeah,
this has been, it's been dead reliable in spite of the power that it's putting out.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what else to say about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll leave you with one last question then, my friend. So we talked about how this competed at the Manx GP, but we didn't actually tell people, you know, what a little bit of the background there. So it was you and your son.
Yeah.
Right? So can you just tell, you know,
well,
I said it was at the Manx, but if you could just tell people how that, you know, what happened and
well,
who it was, that kind of thing.
that was practically instantaneous happening. We were doing the racing out at Willow Springs. He wasn't riding. Mark Watts was the rider.
Okay.
And I saw, you know, Russell's over busy talking to somebody after the races and the whole thing. And so I wander over and he says, guess what? And I said, well, you know, I don't know. And he said, we're going to race the Isle of Man. And I went, oh, okay.
That was quite a surprise. We sprung on
and so that was about it, you know.
Wow.
So a lot of people got on board with it. You know, and helped us out. Okay. It just, you know, kind of came together. And so, you know, once we got there, I went, God, you know, I think we're out of our class, you know. So, but the bike was fast.
Yeah.
And we didn't win, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a big challenge. So no worries.
Well,
there,
the funny thing is my boy Russell had quite a bit of time, you know, riding the canyons and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you go over there and you're essentially doing the same thing, except you're doing it at double the speed you've ever gone.
Yeah.
You know, and you make a mistake, you're going to pay for it. You
absolutely.
know. So he was fast, but he was safe. And
hard to argue with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So.
Well, there you go. That's incredible. Everyone, thank you, Jim, for your time. We really do appreciate it. You know, we'll kick back to a second with the bodywork all back on it and ready to go. We'll fire this thing up so you guys can hear what it sounds like. But again, the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Granger. Thank you, sir. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're back, and of course the bodywork is on. Jim got this bodywork from the Commonwealth Honda Racing team, so that's why it's equipped with those colors that you see there. And big fans of Randy Renfro will recognize this number as it came up one of his race bikes as well, which is pretty cool. Well, let's fire this thing up, see what it sounds like with that HRC exhaust. God, we love V4s here. We love these bikes. The RC30s are so incredible. This one holds a good idle. You know it's a proper race bike when the tach doesn't start until 3,000 RPM, which is always nice. But there you go. So I hope you enjoyed the bike. I hope you really enjoyed hearing from Jim himself, a little bit about his history and his work on this machine. If you want this piece of history for yourself, it'll be going up on our auction site very soon. Ask us questions in the comments here in the video or on the auction site itself. We'll do our best to help. And as always, thank you for watching.